Here's a battle of the one-arm wonders and finding out if the single yoke mount, one-sided, single-sided, whatever you want to call it, yoke mount, is a good thing or a bad thing. Is the flexibility of moving it around and articulation good? Or does the handling noise kind of turn you off? Welcome back to the Rebel Tech channel. I'm Justin, and in this video we're going to be comparing the Wave DX by ElGato and the Presonus PD-70. Obviously by Presonus. I did it backwards, but that's okay. So these two microphones have a couple things in common, but the main thing that I want to focus on, at least a little bit in this video, is the fact that they both have a single yoke mount, just one connector. It's not connected on both sides. So you can see this is one side, this is one side. Now this is usually because you want to be more flexible with how they move on a boom arm or whatever it is. These are made for broadcast. They're made for streaming, made for podcasting, whatever you want to use it for. Really, you could use it for anything, but that is really what these microphones are kind of marketed towards. The Wave DX is obviously a streaming mic. The Presonus is probably more so a podcasting mic because Presonus is, I don't want to say higher end, but it's more commercial, or what, there's some word in there that I want to say. It's more for podcasting, broadcast, and stuff like that, rather than the streaming. And it's just the culture. The culture is different with these two microphones. So at least with the build comparison, I give a kind of a heavy edge to the Presonus, but that doesn't mean that the handling noise is better on the Presonus. So stick around for the booth, and if you are interested in just hearing that, go down to the chapters in the down part, you know, the timeline there. So next up, I'm going to put up a comparison of the tech and specs. Very simple, nothing too crazy, not too techie. I don't do techie talk anymore because it's just rambling of numbers that no one cares about. But if you have any questions about the specific numbers, the sensitivity, or whatever it is, let me know down in the comments and we can talk about it. So I've been about 2 to 3 inches away from the microphones. This is what it's going to sound like in my studio here, mildly treated and all that stuff. If you haven't been here before, it's mildly treated with some sound blankets and moving blankets that I use for the booth. I call it a booth because it's just a more controlled environment than obviously not having them up. But it's not obvious. It's not a real good booth. I mean, one day I'll build one. I built a really nice booth one day, but in the past, but it's gone. It's been sacrificed to someone else's house. I don't have the room for it. But without me rambling any further, let's do a distance and off axis. About 1.5 feet away from the fronts of the microphones is what it's going to sound like. Both of these microphones are cardioid polar patterns. I got that out. I definitely said that right. Definitely. Really sure about that one. This is what it's going to sound like in the studio here, mildly treated, all that stuff. Let's do some off-axis stuff to see how they are with rejecting not in front. Off-axis. That's the word. All right, 90-degree test, stage left on the, not the Presonus, the other one, the ElGato side. 90 degrees. This is what it's going to sound like in the studio here. If you've seen my other videos, you know that I do a 90-degree test and a 180-degree test, so this is what it's going to sound like. Next up on the Presonus side, 90 degrees. This is what it's going to sound like in my studio here. It's been a while since I had the Presonus on the stand, and just trying to figure out things to say because it's hot and I don't want to talk too much because I'm going to pass out. Last but certainly not least, this is the 180-degree test. Behind the microphones, you might get some reflection back off the wall behind the camera, but this is what it's going to sound like in the studio here. I'll be doing another off-axis test in the booth, close proximity in there, and then an off-axis test in the untreated room. Alright, so I'm starting to get my groove back, getting back into recording videos and banging them out. But not too fast. Let's go to the booth and see how those tests go. See if I'm out of practice with those. Maybe I'll sweat my you-know-what's off and it will all just derail awfully. awfully. I don't know. Let's go to the booth. All right, in the booth with Wave DX, PD-70, Presonus, ElGato. Let's do it. All right, so if you've been following the series so far, it's kind of like been a on and off kind of thing. It's been some tests do well with the Wave DX, some tests on the others do well. It's kind of like, where are you going to cut the quality? Are you going to cut it on the tone, low end, high end, mids, or are you going to cut it on the build quality, the plosive rejection, all that stuff, proximity effect, and off axis? All this stuff needs to be considered. Now on the PD-70, this is what it's going to sound like in the booth here. And again, I always go back to this microphone and I like it on my voice. I really do. It's just, it really does feel like a solid, like, natural microphone, and it's really good. The problem is, to the next test, a little bit of resonant frequencies being picked up when tapped and moved, and handling noise. Not that good. So keep that in mind when you're picking up a microphone. If you're someone that moves around a microphone or is prone to tapping the mic, keep that in mind. Now here, honestly, it's not much different, to be honest with you. All right, plosives. Not that bad. It's all right. Now that I'm listening to it, it's... I don't know. I like the neutral tone, but I also like the low end here. Like, you listen to that low end and it's a little more rich, a little more kind of like my style, but I don't know. I'm leaning towards the Wave DX right now in the booth, so keep that in mind. What other test are we going to do? Oh, proximity, the sexy kind. That's what it's going to sound like, getting up nice and close to the Wave DX, and there you go. And getting up really close to the Presonus. To be honest, it's very similar. Not much different. So if you're looking for a proximity effect, consider one or the other. I don't know. Depends on your brand loyalty at some point. All right, both cardioid polar patterns. We're going to walk around. This is a 90 degree, a little bit closer than we did before. And now 180 on the Presonus. This is what it's going to sound like. And the other side, this is what it's going to sound like. Back around to the front. And Wave DX going around. Let's do a little counterclockwise action there. 180 over here. This is what it's going to sound like. Remember, these are both cardioid polar patterns. Other side, walking around. And this is what it's going to sound like around the microphones. And I'm still sweaty. It's not fun. It's getting to that point where every day's hot. And the basement and the studio is hot every day. Tired of it. Just sick of it. I don't like the hot weather. I'm not a fan. All right, so Untreated room with the Wave DX and the Presonus PD-70. This is a different Untreated room. I have said this in a couple of videos now. The two that have come out, the solo video with just the Wave DX and the comparison between the Wave DX and the pod mic. Now, I'm not going to go into detail of this room in this video, but if you want the specifics, I can leave... just ask me down in the comments and I can leave it for you. I could just give you the answer, dimensions, and stuff like that. But if you're interested in that without asking a question, it's in the solo video of the Wave DX. So just go to the Untreated room chapter, and I'll say it right at the beginning so you know. So if you don't want to wait for me to answer you. With that being said, let's do it. So I've been about like 2-3 inches away from the fronts of the microphones. This is what it's going to sound like in the Untreated room. Different Untreated room. Maybe I might go back to the other one in future videos. But for this stretch of comparisons, it's going to be in this room. All right, about like 2 feet away from the fronts of the microphones, this is what it's going to sound like in the untreated room. And yeah, starting to get really warm now, and it's just been warm all the time, so I've been sweating. So yeah, it's not fun. And that thing, I'm trying the refrigerator in the other room's going off, so keep that in mind too. All right, stage left. This is what it's going to sound like in the untreated room, about 2 feet away from the Wave DX and a little further away from the PD-70. And yeah, so keep that in mind. A lot of stuff in this room, but there are some flat walls, flat ceiling, and a lot of stuff going on in the room. So take that with what you will. Trying to find something to say, to be honest with you. And you may ask, on stage right here, oh, why don't you just repeat yourself saying the same thing over and over again, and then you don't have to worry about not having enough things to say? Well, to be honest, if I am monotone and say something like a monologue or whatever, it's gonna come off the same every time, which isn't how vocals work. Vocals are, especially spoken word, is variable, and it like varies in its tone and its up and down. And sure, I can act out multiple things, but I feel like if I'm talking, I'm naturally talking in a way that someone would talk into these microphones. Lastly, 180 degrees, about 2 feet away from the rears of the microphones. This is what it's going to sound like in the untreated room. Again, really hot in here, trying to figure out what to say. And yeah, let me know what you think, if you can even hear me. If you can't, that's great for these. All right, that's it for the untreated room. I'm going to give you my perspective in the outro right now. And yeah, to future me. All right, so I'm picking the PD-70 in this one. And it really is a personal preference. I honestly do admit that. But there are certain things that the Wave DX does better. So we're going to get into it. And I got to think of a name of the group of people that are going to be mad about my choice, meaning the Wave DX people. Considering the fact that it did win one, so it's 1-1 so far in the battles, between the versus battles between the microphones that I've covered. So if you have any ideas for the Wave DX members, I don't know what they're going to be named. I mean, the ZDM1 mob is out there, and they're very vocal. So if you're a Wave DX fan, let me know. Or if you're a PD-70 fan, I don't know. We got to give names to these groups of people that prefer these microphones. So if you have any ideas, let me know down in the comments. Let's have fun with it. Without any further ado, let's get into the notes of how I analyze this in post and listen to it. So in the studio here, first off, the Wave is more full and the PD is more flat. Now, this is a more neutral microphone, and I like the fact, which is very strange because I love a dark microphone that really emphasizes like my voice pretty well, and I like the way my voice sounds on like a SM7B or an MV7, something like that. AT4040 is another one. But this microphone, I really love the neutral tone and the natural tone of it. I say the Wave is more full because it's got that low-end presence and it feels more like there's a body to it. Then with the distance and off-axis, the distance is about the same. Maybe a little better on the 90s for the PD-70 and then close for the 180s. So a slight edge to the PD-70 in that department. Next up, the booth. The tap test just seemed okay on both. They weren't great, but I mean, it depends on your personal preference of handling noise. If you're not a person that handles your microphone, then probably not a big deal. But I know that there are some people, there are a lot of people, if you really watch videos out there of people doing podcasts and stuff like that, they handle their microphone. And unfortunately, a lot of those people use a microphone like the Shure SM7B that you're not going to notice the handling noise. But if you watch them grab the microphone and move it around a lot, a microphone like this, a microphone like the ZDM1 will pick that up. So keep that in mind if you're a person that does move around the microphone a lot. And just because you're not one of them doesn't mean they don't exist. With the plosives, I felt like the PD-70 was a little bit better, but not by much. The proximity effect was good on both. Personal preference. Usually with the proximity effect, it really comes down to personal preference of how you like the sound of the microphone. So keep that in mind. And then with the off-axis, the close off-axis, it was pretty close. So maybe a slight edge to the PD-70 in the booth, but I would say it's pretty even at that point in the booth. Then with distance, 90s and 180, I felt like it was all the same. If you heard something different in any of these, let me know down in the comments and we could discuss it. All I ask is you be nice. Let's have a discussion, not an argument. So let's have fun with it and bounce things off each other. So overall with this microphone, I just felt like it came down to I've always loved the sound of this microphone, at least on my voice. And I don't see it around much because I don't think it's that much of a popular microphone in the podcasting world. I feel like it's underrated, and it's one of those microphones that if someone really did their research and figured out which microphone was for them. I'm not saying it's for everyone. I'm just saying there probably will be more people out there that would use this microphone. It's just they don't know about it. And I seem to be one of the rare people that cover it. So keep that in mind. Not even the big channels cover it. I mean, podcast just covers everything. He wasn't really a fan of this microphone, which I can understand why, but I like the natural tone of this microphone, and with some EQ, this definitely on my list of microphones I want to do an EQ video on and try to make it a little bit more, like, emphasize the good things in my voice. And obviously, if I ever have a chance to put other people's voices into it, I'll do it and EQ them and play around with it, mess around with it, see how it sounds. But overall, I do like this microphone. Nothing against the Wave DX, but between these two and how I feel, just my personal preference. Let me know down in the comments how you feel and what you think about the comparison between the two. Do you feel like you agree with me, disagree with me? All you got to do is be nice and let's have a conversation. That all being said, thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you liked the video, please hit the like button down below. It'd be greatly appreciated. Helps this video, helps this channel, and it really does mean a lot. And if you like my vibe around here, please consider subscribing. We got more Wave DX comparisons coming up. We have we already did the pod mic, we did the PD-70, MV7, Zoom ZDM1, AT2040, and the Shure SM7B. I feel like I got all of them in there. Maybe one day I'll pick up more, but I don't know. Budget's a little tight right now, so what I have is what you get. So every week for the next coming weeks, it's going to be a video a week with the comparisons being the videos. Once I do the comparison between this and the Shure SM7B, then I'm going to take a break from the Wave DX and do some other stuff, play around, maybe some skits and stuff like that. I've been wanting to do more short films and skits because that's what I like to do. That's what I like to put out. I mean, I understand that probably not many people are going to watch it, but I am going to enjoy making it, so that's what really matters. And that's all I got for you. Until next time, take care. I'll see you rebels in the next video.